Welcome to this episode of Uplifting News Sleep Aid Daily, where we read you good news to fall asleep to. Today is Wednesday, April 8th, 2020. Our three uplifting stories include acts of kindness setting off chain reactions of good deeds, $35 million raised for WHO in 7 days thanks to Lady Gaga, and a photographer who has found a way to create art in times of social distance. Now, breathe in. Breathe out. And relax as we dive into these stories. Our first story is from the Washington Post. These acts of kindness set off a chain reaction of good deeds. In her stirring speech to her nation Sunday, Queen Elizabeth II hailed the attributes of self-discipline, of good-humored resolve, and of fellow feeling in her fellow Britons. Like many Americans, we were moved by the Queen's speech. Also, like many Americans, we couldn't help thinking proudly of our own compatriots who are displaying those same attributes. Americans such as Mario Salerno and Greg Daly, Rosario Ferrugio and Doug Lamers, Taryn and Calliope Tien. These are people, some might call them ordinary, who have risen to the unprecedented challenges of the raging pandemic with acts of kindness, generosity, and compassion. Or, as the Queen so elegantly phrased it, fellow feeling. Mr. Salerno is a landlord in Brooklyn who told his tenants not to worry about paying April rent. Mr. Daly, who delivers newspapers in New Jersey, has offered free of charge to shop for groceries for people on his route who can't get out. Mr. Ferrugio, owner of an Italian restaurant, is giving free food to families whose children had depended upon schools for their meals. Also feeding kids in need is Mr. Lammers, owner of a small cafe in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Taryn and Calliope Tien are two children ages 9 and 6 in Columbus, Ohio, who entertained their shut-in neighbor with a cello concert on the 78-year-old's front porch. And they are far from alone. Witness the reports of restaurant patrons leaving $1,000 tips to take care of laid-off workers, neighbors helping neighbors with chores and errands, people having food delivered to hospital workers, first aid responders, and, at least in one case, newspaper reporters. In many cases, one act of kindness sets off a chain reaction of good deeds. Mr. Daly, for example, reported being deluged not just with requests for help, but with offers from people who wanted to donate food or offer him money for gas. Mr. Ferrugio said so many people from the community wanted to pitch in that he set up a website to manage contributions. Some people in government, business, and sports have shown similar spirit. Oregon Governor Kate Brown made badly needed ventilators available to New York. Facebook offered grants to local newspapers. A number of National Basketball Association teams set up funds to help arena workers whose incomes have been disrupted. My concern is everyone's health. I told them just to look out for your neighbor and make sure that everyone has food on their table, said Mr. Salerno. Of course, at a time like this, fear and prejudice also motivate some actions. But it's heartening to see how many of us are responding, like Mr. Salerno, with a sense of fellow feeling. This podcast is hosted on Anchor.fm. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free, there's creation tools to allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute the podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Our next article is from Business Insider. by Anna Medeiros Miller. Lady Gaga has raised $35 million in 7 days for the WHO's Global Coronavirus Response Fund and is spearheading a virtual festival. Lady Gaga has helped raise $35 million in 7 days for the World Health Organization's Solidarity Response Fund by calling on corporate leaders and philanthropists, she said at a WHO media briefing April 6. The money will go toward global PPE supplies, testing kits, and help improve lab capacity to process the tests, she said. We have said consistently that we are all in this together and we can only succeed together, the World Health Organization's Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said when announcing Lady Gaga at the briefing. We need an all-of-society approach with everyone playing their part. That includes people in the entertainment industry. Gaga also announced her partnership with the WHO and the music festival organization Global Citizen to spearhead a streamed music festival called One World Together at Home. The virtual concert, showing on many networks at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 18th, will feature dozens of stars including Billie Eilish, Lizzo, Elton John, Chris Martin, Paul McCartney, and Stevie Wonder. It will not be a fundraiser, but rather a celebration of the power of the human that the pandemic has brought to light. Throughout her announcement, Gaga praised healthcare workers on the front lines of the fight against the novel coronavirus. My heart is very, very achy and warm for those who are ER doctors and nurses who are sleeping in cars to make sure they don't infect their families or their patients, she said. What you're doing is putting yourselves in harm's way to end the world, and we all salute you, and you are a triumph, truly. Gaga also extended her prayers to help people who are sick and those who have lost their jobs and are struggling to feed themselves and their kids. The concert, she and her collaborators hope, will bring attention to all the positive that's occurring in the world now, too. We celebrate and highlight the singular, kind, global community that is arising right now, she said. We want to highlight the gravity of this historical, unprecedented cultural movement. And we want to celebrate and encourage the power of the human. When we do air live on April 18th, she added, put your wallet away, put anything away that you need to, and sit back and enjoy the show that you all very much deserve. Our last story is from BroadwayWorld.com. Leslie Kritzer, Alicia Umphris, and more featured in photographer Sydney Angel's social distancing project, Bloom. In response to the COVID-19 crisis, New York City photographer Sydney Angel has created Bloom, an online portraiture and interview project documenting the social distancing of a wide array of Americans, including Broadway actors Leslie Kritzer, Alicia Umphris, Ellen Marsh, Katie Ladner, Dana Steingold, and Kristen Zbornik. So far in the ongoing series, Angel has photographed and interviewed subjects from all walks of life, including actors, musicians, dancers, designers, writers, artists, and other people usually working in the public space. She is currently taking appointments from anyone in the field wanting to share their story of this extraordinary time. The project has been really cathartic for everyone involved, says Angel. On the subject's end, they're getting a chance to formally reflect about how they feel, sometimes for the first time. They're also getting a break from all the anxiety and fear by dressing up for a virtual photo shoot. On my end, I'm seeing my own experience reflected in their responses and finding comfort in the idea that we're collectively in this together. To register for an online appointment through May 1st or to view the project, visit www.sydneyangelphotography.com/bloom. That's SYDNEYANGEL photography.com/bloom. Participation is completely free, and voluntary donations from the public will be accepted for the United Way of New York City's COVID-19 Community Fund, which is assisting low-income and food-insecure families throughout the 5 boroughs currently weathering the virus crisis. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us at Uplifting News Sleep Aid Daily. Stay safe and stay inside.